Shalom. Welcome to Israel. Or better yet, welcome to the Holy Land. A sweet peace fills the air. I walked today where Jesus walked and felt his presence there.
That Pat Boone, I swear, is like 1,000 bees shit honey right down his throat. It's always the Christians that get the A-list celebrities. Shalom, winners and sinners. This is the God-fearing atheist. A wise man once said that the greatest thing Satan ever did was to convince the world that he doesn't exist. Well, he does exist, and he needs to stop doing the payroll himself because this is like the 6th time he has messed up my paycheck. I keep telling him to hire someone that's good with money, and I doubt that the only Jews up to the task are the 144,000 we didn't get. Anyway, let's get back to Dennis Swift and see if they've revoked his library card yet.
And let me also say, I was with National Geographic in 2001, and National Geographic was filming with me. Is this of interest to you? Is everybody awake out there? Oh-ho!
If you have to ask if your audience is still awake, you know at least 2 things. 1, you probably aren't going to get funding for your next adventure from these guys. And 2, you shouldn't have misled them by telling them that this was a free screening of the film Christian Mingle.
So National Geographic, and we flew over the Nazca lines, and I talked about some of the discoveries there, and there are many things that happened. But I also hired some vaqueros. They're grave robbers. And so we went outside.
So you just hired some grave robbers, huh? Look, I know there isn't specifically a commandment against grave robbing or rape, for that matter, or slavery, but you would still think that maybe you wouldn't be so casual about it. I mean, of course, the graves probably don't belong to Christians, so fuck them. Having their final resting places pillaged is the least of their worries. Am I right? Up high.
All of the people I know, even most of them who profess to be Christians, still worship their ancient gods, Pachamama and the
Hachimama? Come on, guys, this is getting sad now. Did you just feed him bullshit words so you can turn him into a drinking game? Let me hear it again.
Still worship their ancient gods, Pachamama.
I recognize that. Where have I heard that?
Pussy mama!
Oh, yeah, that's right. Frickin' brilliant. Mean, but it's brilliant.
And while we were filming for National Geographic, in one of the tombs we found an engraved stone. So that kind of ruined my deal with National Geographic because they're never going to show that.
Okay, I'm confused. What was your deal with National Geographic? Why would it be ruined if you discovered a Ica stone? That makes absolutely no sense. How do you get hired by Nat Geo to not find something and not be in a ghost hunting show?
So Basilio, people said, oh, look, he carved all these. Now, one time he said he did carve some.
Basilio also went on to explain how he faked the patina, which Denny has to be aware of. He actually admitted he faked it by baking cow shit onto it. I swear to Baphomet. Dr. Dino was literally fooled by bullshit. I really want you to take a moment to let that sink in.
And this was found in an official archaeological excavation, and it has 2 dinosaurs on it. This stone right here, it has a massive amount of patina all over it.
Wow. Sounds like someone put an extra dollop of dookie on that one.
And another interesting thing about this, even if it's some dirt in it.
It's not dirt, it's shit.
So laboratory tests, the Mauricio Hachal Mining Company of Lima, Peru, authentication 1968. 1969, University of Bonn, Germany, authentication.
The University of Bonn concluded that the stones that they tested were indeed andesite. No shit. Also, it was noted by a man named Neil Steed that although there was patina on the stones, they weren't in the incisions. The stones that were tested appeared to have had a genuine patina as opposed to duty glaze, which means they weren't the work of Basilio, but as it was learned, there were multiple sources of the forgeries, including some of the grave robbers, it is believed.
1973, NASA scientist Joseph Blumrich.
I can find no test that was done by NASA scientist Joseph Blumrich, but I do have him quoted as saying, "I am deeply impressed by what I've seen here, and I'm happy to have found so much direct evidence of what I began to feel and understand before. There is no doubt in my mind about the authenticity of these stones." Since I can find no peer-reviewed articles published by Blumrich regarding the testing of the stones, the only reasonable option at this point is to regard his statement as opinion, rather than a conclusion based on the results of a test. It appears that Denny has committed a fallacy often used by creationists, which is the appeal to authority, which basically states that a person with perceived expertise is assumed to be correct simply because of their credentials.
Why isn't this published in any science journals, Pastor Swift, Mr. Know a Few Things?
That's a great question, although I doubt I will ever call you Pastor Know Everything. It's kind of an oxymoron.
Oh, glad you asked it. Because the Gestapo is everywhere.
Oh, it's the Gestapo, of course. I think I'd prefer to call you Pastor Tinfoil Hat from now on, though.
All right, I was with the KGB in Russia, and the SSI in Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, near Stan the Man, Cheapistan.
And don't forget, evidence be damned.
There will be an article that's published in the next edition. It's coming out in a month or two in the Journal of Creation, David Watts on myself. And some of these things have been there. So get that, and that answers my question. It is coming out.
The Journal of Creation. Be sure to pick up your copy today, now available in 2-ply.
Palm Abrasive Laboratories, 2004 Laser Optical USB Digital Microscope.
Laser optical USB digital microscope? Damn, that sounds super sciencey and shit. Let's see if I can find one online. Aw, you son of a bitch, Denny. It's just a desktop gadget. Always the jokester. I should have known something was up when you called a laser optical. That is redundant. And also, no one treats USB as an acronym anymore. There's no other reason for this unless, I don't know, you were trying to make the equipment seem more legit, or your notes haven't changed since the 90s. But that seems so absurd I can't even believe I mentioned it.
You ever see those USB digital microscopes? I have one, proscopes. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer, and they use them in, like if you watch some of the crime movies, crime series on TV, you'll see them use that. Police in some departments use it.
You are so full of patina, Denny. Anyway, I want to go back for a second to focus on Denny's real talent here.
You ever see those USB digital microscopes? I have one, proscopes. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer. You take them like that, you connect them to a computer, and they use them in. Okay, stone collections. There's in the Icky Museum, Peruvian Aeronautical Museum. There were over 50 until I got involved, and they have heavy patina on them.
Yeah, I'm guessing once you got involved, they had heavy patina on them. I'm suggesting you rub your feces on them. You seem like the type.
But once, and they published an article in magazines and journals down in Peru, but once the spotlight came on the museum, those 50-plus stones have now disappeared, except for one in an area where there is also some other collection of artifacts. But all the other stones have disappeared. So that part of it is gone.
They just disappeared, huh? I'm guessing you want us to assume that the science Gestapo came in and stole them so that no one else would be able to research them. I think there actually might be some truth hidden there, but I don't think some clandestine organization is responsible. Has there been any investigation into the stolen stones? I mean, really, I can't find anything on the missing stones. To be honest, I can find so little on these stones, and most of the information debunks them outright. It's almost as if the mainstream scientific community smelled the big load of patina from a mile away, debunked it, and then moved on to some more fruitful pursuits. I'm sorry, Dennis. What were you saying?
All right. So let's look at ecostones.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the stones. You've already done a bang-up job of demonstrating their validity, so let's see what treasures they behold.
It is known that dinosaurs were lumbering, slow-moving, tail-dragging behemoths. Dinosaurs were droopy-tailed. The ecostones with dinosaurs walking with tails sticking out proves they are fakes. Now that's written in the 1960s. Okay.
J. Malturns was a well-known science illustrator. Although not a scientist himself, his work reflected the knowledge of the day.
I had one of the best pieces of preserved dinosaur skin ever found. I got it in Bolivia in 1997, and then I gave it away to Carl Baugh in his museum. I miss it, but it was a gigantic piece. Well, it's about this big, of fossilized dinosaur skin. But if you look closely on the ecostones, there are many of these patterns that looks like, and also we know now dinosaurs had this kind of round, bubbly type.
Those markings on the skin look nothing like the big dinner plate on the drawing. That is a big reach.
Dinosaurs and ecostones are comical creations. Sauropod dinosaurs did not have funny fish frills running along their spines. They are fanciful products of human imagination. That's what scientists used to say about it.
Where's your source, Denny? You have that text up as if it's a quote, yet you have no sources. Look, I'm not saying that scientists weren't wrong about dinosaurs 50 years ago. They were. They were going on the best information they had. But I can't refute a claim when I have no specific source other than you. I can refute you, though. You are refuted.
Dermal spines. 1992, Stephen Zerkas, volume 21 in geology. At the Hal Quarry, they found fossilized dinosaur skin, and among that, they found evidence that dinosaurs had dermal frills in the back, similar to the scutes on the back of crocodiles, and iguanas, the frills on the back. Dinosaurs had those frills. Before that, all dinosaurs were smooth skinned.
Dermal spines were not even a new thing in the 1960s when the ecostones were forged. Here are some of the earliest illustrations of dinosaurs, and although we know now that much about these guys are inaccurate, the idea of spines on dinosaurs existed since practically the first official dinosaur discoveries. We also know that many of the dinosaurs depicted had feathers, or at least proto-feathers, yet strangely I don't see them represented in the stones. Curious.
There are evolutionist paleontologists who have my book. And sometimes they contact me and they'll make comments like this. But they don't want me to, all of them, for me to say their name publicly because they'd lose their jobs.
I would imagine you get prank called by these evolutionists.
But they're pointing out some of the accuracies of these stones. Michael Milburn. So see this on the back of this stone.
Wow, he's at a church. What a surprise. You know, it's so retro of him to bring science lectures back into the church. Crack open a microbrew, Hipster Swift is about to take a selfie with Mumford & Sons? I don't know. I just used up all my hip buzzwords in one shot. Pace yourself, GFA.
Dinosaurs had smooth, leathery skin, much like elephants. They were devoid of any ornamentation. So Barnum Brown said that back in the 1960s, 1970s about the ecostones, that they're incorrect. Well, now we know he was incorrect.
Barnum Brown was an early paleontologist and an early adopter of name alliteration. He was also the first person to excavate the remains of a Tyrannosaurus rex. While his contributions to paleontology are notable, if this is indeed a quote from him, he was wrong. Although it would be odd that he would say this knowing about the existence of the Stegosaurus, which was discovered a good 20 years prior to his discovery. In any case, this was not the general consensus by the 1960s when the carvings were made. He passed away in 1963 at the age of 89, so if he did say this in the 60s, he said it at the end of his life, and he clearly was not up to date on the current science.
And some of the creationists I knew back then, they're incorrect too, because they said that the ecostones were fakes. No serious paleontologist gives credence to the ecostones showing dinosaurs with bumpy, scaly skin or Rosetta skin patterns. Okay.
Again, who said this? I think you're just pulling this out of your ass at this point. References, Pastor Tinfoil Hat, references. It's like you want to intentionally deceive people into thinking this is a quote by somebody.
We see some of the Rosetta-type patterns. We see the large things. And this is on many of the ecostones. I'm just using an example. Now, here's an ecostone here, and here's a Nazca vase with some Tiahuanaco influence about 700 AD, which I now own this vase.
Let's stop on this for a moment because it's pretty interesting. So far, Dr. Swift has only been talking about stones, but did you know that someone sold him some dino pottery as well? Now, before you say that someone with a third-grade artistic aptitude attached a clay dinosaur to pottery they'd been trying to sell just so they can pawn it off on a gullible gringo, let me just say this. Nuh-uh. As you can see in this second paragraph, 32 zoologists and iguana experts were consulted, and all of them said it's not an iguana. So, there. Seriously, I just imagine him shuffling through the streets of Peru like lost his shit, sweating profusely, wearing a pith helmet he got off of eBay, just really sticking out like a sore thumb. He must have looked irresistible to the locals.
Now, remember T-Rex from the old days in the books? And he's got his arms like this backwards and stuff. This is a 1960s dinosaur drawing. More correct anatomically than that.
No. What exactly is more anatomically correct about the stone? Let's see. They're both standing upright like a person, which we know they couldn't do. The arms are proportionally too long for the body. And speaking of proportion, look at the size of the Tyrannosaurus Rex compared to the human. And finally, I'm sorry if I'm being a little crude here, but the T-Rex looks like he's about to give the man surprise sex. I'm sorry. I call it like I see it. Now, I was able to get this exact stone and subject it to a laser optical universal serial bus digital microscope enhancement procedure, and my fears were validated. If you look closely here, you can see what appears to be a cup of liquid that has been spiked with some prehistoric ancestor of Rohypnol. The hypothesis is that the little arms make it difficult to hold down his victims when he is in possession of all of his faculties.
They used to put sprawl-legged Diplodocus. This is from the 1920s. But the problem was if their legs sprawled out like that, they'd drag their belly. They had many problems. So if they were copying these things, why wouldn't they do it that way? Well, instead, they have it like this.
Because they weren't made in the 20s, they were made in the 60s. Look, bro, they got it wrong in the 20s, but they also got it wrong in the 60s. Hell, whether we like it or not, it seems that the T-Rex was at least partially feathered, which means they even got it wrong in the 90s. And if the trend continues the way it has consistently, 20 years down the road, our picture of dinosaurs will have changed even more. Proponents of creationism find this idea to be a nail in the coffin for the science they disagree with. The thinking goes, if science was wrong then, couldn't it just as easily be wrong now? And the short answer is yes. What we accept today could be wrong tomorrow. But this doesn't mean that the scientific consensus of that day had no weight behind it. Knowledge is generally cumulative, and what we thought was correct was based on the best information we had at that moment. When new information arises, it either confirms our beliefs and provides greater insight, or it closes the book on one avenue of exploration and changes the direction of scientific investigation. This is how we learn as humans when we aren't able to hold this big book of all answers and skip to the very last chapter. Creationists, on the other hand, believe they possess this very book. It is essential to their religion. When you understand this, it makes it easy to see why they defend their book of answers against anything that threatens to undermine it, which they are more than welcome to do. What they aren't allowed to do is redefine the definition of science for everyone, because it will be more comfortable and less challenging for them. Because believe it or not, most humans are naturally inquisitive. It is only when they are indoctrinated into a belief system that discourages curiosity that they will choose to either fight against science or fight to escape the constraints of their religion. Or the third option is to try to combine the two. But I wouldn't recommend this, because the next thing you know, you might be bumbling around a foreign country with a bag full of shit-covered stones. Stick to the scat you're good at, Dennis.
You take them like that, you hook them, you connect them to the computer. You take them like that, you hook them, you connect them to the computer.